On March 8, 2014, a Boeing 777 carrying 239 people vanished. No wreckage, no mayday, no answers. Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 simply disappeared from the sky. And over the years, this catastrophe has become one of the greatest aviation mysteries in history. But buried beneath official reports, satellite data, and press conferences, there are fragments of audio, glitches, gaps, unexplained words. And if you listen really carefully, you can hear echoes of an untold story. So let's dive into one of the darkest files in modern flight history. Welcome to File X Part 1, the last known communication. At 1:19 a.m. Malaysian time, the final words were transmitted from the cockpit. Good night, Malaysian 370. Calm. Routine. Just moments earlier, the pilots were talking with Sabang Air Traffic Control. About half an hour into the flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing, the pilots were cleared to continue on their course at 37,000 feet. All routine, all standard. The controllers gave the pilots all the information they needed for the journey ahead. So the captain replied, "Good night, Malaysian 370," but that was the last thing he ever said. Seconds later, at 1:21 a.m., the transponder was turned off. The plane vanished from civilian radar. The official investigation later revealed that military radar would continue tracking the plane as it made a turn to the west. It was flying away from its planned route, away from its destination, away from everything that was supposed to be familiar to the crew. The plane kept going for hours, charting a course that would eventually lead it over the southernmost part of India, over Indonesia, and then into the vast emptiness of the southern Indian Ocean. Now, most planes vanish in a flash, consumed by fire, torn apart by forces beyond their control. But this plane stayed aloft for hours, and that was the first piece of the puzzle that didn't fit. But let's rewind the tape because there is one more detail that doesn't add up. In the minutes leading up to the disappearance, there's a pause, nearly 20 seconds long. Between air traffic instructions and the pilot's final reply, controllers handed off Malaysian 372, another flight control team, and told them the plane was cruising at 37,000 feet. The controller then suggested a slight change of course to put the plane on its optimal route. The jet was now 170 nautical miles from its destination. It should be able to see the lights of Beijing. So the controller asked the pilots to confirm that they could see the runway, but there was no answer. Then when they responded, there was a long delay. First, the controller asked the pilots to confirm that they could see the runway, but there was no answer. Then when they finally replied, "Good night, Malaysian 370, it wasn't clear. How much of that conversation the pilots heard? Were they distracted? Did they have problems? What happened in those crucial seconds before they signed off for the night? No explanation was given. Some believe it was a moment of confusion. Others think it was something far worse. Part 2. The ping rings. As soon as the jet went off course, it vanished off civilian radar. The transponder was turned off. Communications were cut. The plane was flying blind. And so the world started to wonder, why? Is there a problem with the plane? With the pilots? With the people on the ground? Questions flew back and forth around the world until someone noticed something curious. After radar contact was lost, the plane continued to ping a satellite once every hour for the next 6 hours. It drew a possible arc across the ocean where the plane may have been. Somewhere in the southern Indian Ocean, the plane had vanished. But these pings were like breadcrumbs dropped into the darkness. They suggested the plane was still alive. Well, not alive exactly, more like functional. The engines were running. The systems were powered on. Someone was on board. But why? Why didn't they call for help? Why was the transponder turned off manually, and why did the plane make a sharp U-turn? The answers, some say, lie in the cockpit recorder, which was never found. Part 3. Theories and Shadows. By now, theories were swirling. People were searching. Governments were scrambling. What really happened to MH370? Where was it? Is anyone on board alive? So far, none of the questions could be answered. There were too many gaps, too many doubts, too many unknowns. The official investigation revealed that the plane continued flying for hours after it went off course, presumably on autopilot, for it ran out of fuel and crashed into the southern Indian Ocean. But no debris field was discovered for more than a year, and even then, only fragments washed ashore. Then came the whispers. Some believed the passengers were taken off the plane. Some thought it was a terror attack. Some felt there was more to the story than the official version. One man came forward claiming he received a series of voice messages allegedly sent to passengers' phones. The calls began with a calm description of what happened and ended with a chilling message. The recording said, "There is a possibility we may be hijacked. Please remain calm. Put on your seatbelts. Do not make any sudden moves." Then a second message, this one full of urgency. "We need your help. Please wake up and evacuate immediately. Turn on your mobile phones and send this message to a friend or relative. Pray for us." He claimed these messages were sent by his cousin who was on board the flight. And to prove it, he showed investigators a photo he received from her on the plane. It was pitch black, the only light coming from a faint glow outside the window. He said the coordinates embedded in the photo placed him in a remote hangar near a U.S. military base. But the truth of these messages and the photograph was never confirmed. Some say it's a hoax. Others say it's what governments wanted you to believe. Part 4. Missing time. As investigations dragged on, new information emerged, then disappeared. In 2016, an aviation analyst reported a strange anomaly. He reviewed the satellite communications data and noticed something odd. There was a possible additional transmission from the plane more than 7 hours after it was declared lost. It was never confirmed. It was never mentioned again in official files. Had the plane been found? Who was on board? Why did it disappear from view? It shouldn't have been possible for the plane to remain airborne for that long without refueling. So the question became, how did it keep flying? Another bombshell surfaced in 2018. A whistleblower claimed there was military radar data showing the plane being escorted. Not crashed, a chase, an escort. But the file was redacted. The documents were withheld from the public. Access was denied. Part 5, a mystery that won't die. As of today, Flight MH370 remains unsolved. 239 people vanished. Maybe they rest somewhere in the bottom of the ocean. Maybe their voices echo through empty corridors. Maybe there's a reason for what happened. Maybe there's nothing left to find. Because in the end, it doesn't matter if the truth is out there. If we can't find it, it might as well not exist. This file isn't closed, it's just hidden. And in File X, hidden stories don't stay silent forever. The mystery of Flight MH370 is one of the biggest stories of our generation. The answers lie somewhere out there, scattered across reports, across whispers, and one day we'll find the truth. One day this is File X. We make premium sound documentaries about mysterious disappearances, creepy crimes, and unsolved mysteries. Check out the series in the description and leave a like if you learned something new. See you next time.